Hello everyone and welcome to Rob's video blog. I know it's been a while since my last post, so I'm going to try and do a couple of these in a couple of days to get back on the trail. So what I want to talk about today is language. Language is extraordinarily important. Language is one of the few things that separates human beings from mere beasts. Our ability to not only reason and conceptualize things, but more importantly, our ability to convey our reason and our concepts and describe things. It really is an amazing power to have, the use of language. And not just spoken word, but printed word and other ways to communicate, but the ability to take something that's in your mind and put it in someone else's through just the use of words or symbols or hand gestures, or more appropriately spoken language is truly a very powerful tool. I think when you are analyzing and thinking about very important topics and important situations, I think it's very critical that we avoid the use of names or euphemisms for things, because we can very often lose sight of the important details when we're analyzing a situation. For example, let's take a word like capital punishment, or a name like capital punishment. I'm for capital punishment. Well, let's think about what capital punishment is. Capital punishment is killing another human being. It's very easy to come out and say, I'm for capital punishment. It's a lot harder to come out and say, I'm for killing another human being. Now, I'm going to go through a number of these, and I'm not necessarily for or against any of these. I can get to that in a later blog, but I just want you to see how it becomes very difficult to defend a position, or there's significantly more onerous to defend a position when you don't use the euphemism or the name and you use the actual description of what's going on. So let's take spanking or discipline. Spanking. I'm going to spank my child. You have to discipline your child. Well, what are you really doing? You're beating your child. You're hitting your child. If you say, you should hit your child, that's a little bit harder. And again, just the feeling is that there's a lot more onerous to prove that hitting your child is a good thing. You know, I mean, if you hit a child, you can't call it discipline and then hit your wife and call it abuse. There's a dichotomy there. So again, make sure that we don't use euphemisms or names for things. We use descriptions when we're talking about things. It can get a little wordy, but it's very important because the importance are in the details. One of my favorites, quantitative easing. Money printing. If someone said, yeah, they're gonna do another round of QE, it sounds innocuous. They're gonna quantitatively ease. It sounds fantastic. It's hard to come out and say, yeah, we're gonna print some more money. Again, that's tough to sell to the public. We're going to quantitatively ease. It's a lot easier. Boots on the ground. We're going to send boots. We're going to have boots on the ground. We're going to have a presence in the region. What is that really? We are going to take our military people and put them in a foreign country. Some people call that an invasion. Again, not for or against it, and there are extenuating circumstances around all of these things, but just keep in mind what is really going on. Don't gloss over things with names and euphemisms. Think about what's actually going on. Circumcision. You gonna have your child circumcised? Oh yeah, my kid was circumcised. Think about what you're doing. You're taking an infant baby and you're cutting off roughly 1/3 of the skin on his penis. In some places, they call that genital mutilation. In fact, think of it this way. If I took your daughter and said, hey, are you going to cut off 1/3 of your daughter's genital skin? You probably wouldn't do that. Again, extenuating circumstances, a little bit different between the two, but we have to talk about what's really going on, and it really gives you a different perspective. And lastly, one of my favorites too, a woman's right to choose. I'm for a woman's right to choose. I'm defending a woman's right to choose. It's very difficult to say, I'm defending killing an unborn child. It's very difficult. Again, you can make the argument, but when you use the description and we talk about what's actually going on, you'll find that the onus of proof on the person making the claim becomes much greater when you speak in detail about what they're really talking about. And I find that the people who use euphemisms and names the most are the people who are trying to pull the wool over your eyes the most. They're the people with money, they're the people with power, and most importantly, they're usually the people in the government. So be careful when you're speaking with friends, with family, with anyone, especially people in business, people in the government, adversaries, anyone. Just always replay in your mind, what am I really talking about? Don't get caught into using names. Don't get caught into using euphemisms. Think clearly, analyze clearly, use the description. It's a little bit cumbersome, but I guarantee you will come up with significantly clearer thoughts, clearer positions on topics and issues if you use this technique.